Oh man, that was some level of intro, man. I hope I came through with the music for some people. I know some people are gonna hate that music, but it's got me seriously pumped. So this is the Reefing Report, right? We have the music, we have the sounds. Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well, Terence. How are you tonight?
Dude, I am so amped after that music. I am telling you what. They asked for music, and I guess if you're gonna ask me for music, I'm gonna, I have a wide variety of music, but I like the I'm not gonna put some peaceful like aquarium music there, so I go to sleep before our show, Mark.
Well, if you're a guy who says you have a wide variety of music, Terence, I think every week, maybe we should roll part of your variety and just
Okay.
work it through.
Okay.
Show us a different side of Terence Fugazi next week.
We'll have a little ska, we'll have a little of big band. We'll mix it up, because some people just didn't dig it, but other people thought it was great. So you guys let me know. But just so you know, Mark, that is my tank, like 2 days ago.
I'm glad you're taking lots of pictures and video of it, so when we upgrade it, you'll have something to look back on and remember.
It
I
ain't
recommend
happening, man.
people do that in all my videos.
It ain't happening. Your buddy Ken says, tell Mark it's still snowing in Denver. So
That's why I left.
that's why I didn't drive out there in the RV, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to get stuck out there. Something's going to happen. So
It would have been good on Saturday. Then you would have had to just leave Saturday night, get over the pass, and then you'd be fine.
That's probably true, but I probably wouldn't have come back this way. I would have gone south, but and maybe I still would have hit some. But definitely hope you guys like the intro music. It definitely has me pumped. I'm fully loaded here. I've got the for those people that want to know, it is an orange chocolate old fashioned. Okay.
Orange chocolate. That sounds very girly.
It does, but it's not necessarily. It's an old fashioned, but with chocolate bitters. And 43, which is 43, which is a liqueur, which is an orange liqueur. So it's really a good drink. So anyway, we've got another week here for the Reefing Report, and I'm glad all of you have joined us. We've got a nice contingent of people here tonight. Thank you, everybody out there who has shared the show, who has come and watched the show, watched Mark and I. And we had a good show last week and a good showing. We had quite a few people last week. And there's a few pieces of news this week. You just got back, didn't you, Mark, from somewhere?
I did. I was in Denver, Colorado at the Reef Builders Reef Stock show. A very solid show. Lots of stuff to film there for saltwateraquarium.com and people to talk to. Some new stuff coming out. Lots of new stuff coming out. So that was really cool to see. And then even saw some stuff that's in production, like pre-production, like startup company, someone, hoofing it out of their garage. So that's always cool to see as well.
Well, tell us about that. What was that?
It was a, how do I describe it? It's like these stacked discs. They look like big poker chips with like the ridges on them.
Okay.
And they stacked them and then they like compress them. It has like a big nut on the end and you compress them and you drop them down in their filter sock replacement. Like it's a plastic tube that goes into your filter sock holder.
All right.
So the water like flows through it. It's like 150 micron cartridge basically. And then when you need to clean it, you just loosen it. And then you take it to your sink and like wash it down and put it back together. So,
all right.
Prototype stage, but their mom and dad were hustling, so it was cool to see. We'll see if they what they do with it. I'll put it on the saltwateraquarium.com coverage of the show, and you never know. It's like at some point, Neptune Systems was nothing more than some stuff soldered together, and look where it is now. So it's
BT.
Like,
there's
it all
BT
starts somewhere.
and there's AT. So it's like there's BC and AD. There's BT and AT now. In that regard. But so what else at Reef Stock? Anything else interesting, new product-wise from any of the big guys? Anything happening? I mean, this is supposedly, the first big show, let's say, of the year where products get, pushed out there.
Yep. I'd say the big rollout, the big thing that got a lot of attention was Red Sea had their reef mat there.
Okay.
They had 2 prototypes. So I got a 10, 15-minute walkthrough of that thing. So that was really cool to see.
Okay.
I was like, take it apart. Show me how this works. Show me how you change down a fleece and show me all the cool stuff that's built into it. So I thought it was very well thought out. And as we talked about earlier on the Reefing Report, we wanted to know, how does this integrate if you already have a Red Sea sump? And there's basically 2 ways that you can do it. If you want to just hang it on the side and plumb into it, you can do that.
Okay.
The other thing that you can do is they actually have a kit now
You mean plumb into
for
it externally?
no, it would like sit in your sump, and then it has like a flex tube that you can plumb into it if you want,
I see.
or you
Okay.
can hard plumb.
Okay.
But they also have a kit where you can remove the filter sock baffle that's in their sump. So they said it's very simple. It looks like a razor blade, but it's not. They're like, you can run it on your finger and you won't cut yourself. They said it takes, maybe 5 minutes. It's very easy. So that was interesting to see.
And
I'm gonna
basically
get my
pull
hands
out
on
one of the
and try that.
baffles and then drop this thing in. That's what they say for most of the tanks.
Yeah.
Because I know
It's
that
got,
was one of
the
our
filter
questions.
stock holder. Yeah. It's got the filter stock holder. You take that out and you just cut that little section out and drop it right in that section. So it's really cool. They had some stuff. You can,
So what do you
pull it
think about the
left-hand,
build
right-hand.
quality, the opening it and closing it? I know we discussed that when we watched the videos of, probably a couple of months ago, I think.
Yep.
What do you think? What's your impressions now?
I thought it was solidly built. I mean, it's
Because I know you don't favor these
we
things
kinda-
from some of the other companies. I mean, you've kind of like
Yeah.
poo-pooed a lot of the other products out there. You want to name them?
I mean, I tried them all. Like I tried the DD
Clarity.
one, I tried the Clarity one, and
Uh-huh.
I was like the Clarity one was great. Like it drops right into your 7-inch filter sock. Or they have the 4 one. I'm like, fantastic, love it. I would love for this thing to work, and it just always would something would get caught and would just spit out the whole roll down in there, and you had this big wad of toilet paper that was overflowing, and I'm like, oh, I wanted this to work so bad. So this one looks like it's going to get the job done. It has some neat software integration with the Reef Beat app.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it looks like this isn't something that I see them coming up with in 6 months and then hawking it over to China and bringing it back. This took some effort.
Well, to
It
begin
looks
with,
solidly built.
it's a huge effort to have that many plastic parts that require molds to be built and stuff to be produced, et cetera, to put something like that together. And then the software component is big. So I've got two questions for you. The first one is the roller mat material. Is there only one kind of porosity, I guess? In other words, how much stuff it catches? If it catches, is there like 100 micron, 150 micron, or just one of it? And second question is, can you get it somewhere other than them? Is there, Jim, Mr. Telegram would say, is there a budgeteer version of this? So I don't have to buy from the man and pay the reef tax. With all the
Good
faces.
questions. I think that's a no on both. There may be a different micron one coming. I did not ask that question. That was a good question that I did not ask. They didn't bring it up. They had a couple rolls there sitting, just wrapped in plastic, looked like they're going to sell retail. So I didn't see any mention of that. And I got a walkthrough from the guy. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Really nice guy who runs, Red Sea USA. So he gave me a thorough walkthrough, and he did not mention that. But that's a good question. I should ask them that.
Okay, and can we do an end around Red Sea and buy the fleece somewhere else and have it fit in there? What do you think? I mean, obviously they're not going to tell you that, but what's your thought on that? You think there's going to be a way to do that?
I mean, if it comes from China at some point, someone else is going to sell the exact same thing under a different name. It's just a matter of time.
Okay, so there's a question on that. So Derek, probably from Reef Automation, said, what makes it any better or worse than the Clarity?
I was really impressed with how easy it is to roll the new fleece in and roll the new fleece out.
That's what I saw
They
from the
did some
video.
nice, yeah, and instead of just taking the old fleece out or the new one and you're trying to hold it and thread it, they actually have this little holder that it sits in. It's part of the mold, so you don't trying to juggle all this stuff. And then the integration with the app, it tells you if it's rolling too much or it's not rolling enough, or apparently how much does it think you have left. It'll tell you if it's too full, it's clogged and it's not running. So that was really cool to see that integration.
So
Scott's
follow-up
the guy
question
from Red
there.
Sea.
What's your opinion on them being able to take over the world from a control perspective? Obviously, they are kind of taking the approach, which is a lot of discrete components connected together in a unified app, as opposed to a device where everything kind of connects into, right? What's
Right.
your thoughts on that? Do you think it's coming along? Do you think it's ever going to happen? What do you think?
I mean, it may happen. People have always asked me that. You're like, Neptune, what about Neptune? Who's going to overtake Neptune? And I equated it back to the Apple and Microsoft in the late 90s. It was Windows 98. How is Apple ever going to take over Windows 98? And they didn't try to take over the operating system. They went a whole different direction. And that's how they're able to, per se, overtake Microsoft. So I think if someone was going to break into the controller market and make big waves, actually make a dent in market share, they would have to go a different direction, something that we're not even thinking about, that everyone, blows everything per se out of the water, where you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? That's great. I want that. So I think they'll have some integration. I mean, certainly there's some give and take with everything in one app. But I've liked what I've seen so far. Is this going to be the next controller that's going to compete with an Apex or even a GHL? At this point, I'm going to say no, but I'm open to being wrong on this one.
So last question, we'll move on from the roller mat thing and see if there's anything else from the show. What about smell? Because I know that one of the original versions, I can't remember whose it is, but the one that Ryan at Bulk Reef seemed to push a lot, probably 3-4 years ago when they first started the roller mat thing, the feeling roller mat, has a cover on it, and it keeps the smell down when you have a cover over it. What's your feeling on that?
My experience with them is that they don't stink if they're not running a lot, because the fleece dries out and then it doesn't stink. I mean, if you stick your nose down in it, sure, you're going to smell something, but it's not like I've opened sumps and been like, oh my gosh, what's that smell? So I would not see that would be an issue unless it's rolling excessively, and it shouldn't be rolling excessively, because like something would be wrong. It's meant to roll only so much, and I think if he told me that you can adjust how much you want it to roll when it does roll. So I haven't had this stinking factor with roller mats.
I mean, I've experienced it when I was at Neptune, one of the tanks up front that I've shot footage of before. That tank up front, Joe's tank, it had a roller mat on it. I don't know if it's a Clarity or whatever, and it did stink. So I know that they
more
can
than a
and
skimmer.
Well,
David,
he didn't clean the skimmer enough, so yeah, it definitely stunk more than that. But I think if you clean your skimmer every week, it probably wouldn't stink as much as a skimmer. Plus, you could stick a bag of carbon over a skimmer and help that stinkage, a little bit. So I mean, that's the one thing. Again, these are things that we don't deal with because we have these remote, filter rooms and things like that. But those people who running a 125 gallon tank with a sump underneath, right? That can be an issue, especially in an apartment or a small, family room, living room where your tank is, or office. That stink can happen for sure. It's decomposing poo, So. All right, let's move on, man. So anything else from Reef Stock that was super interesting? Did you speak at Reef Stock?
I did not, so I got to pass on that one. So I was able to film. No, I got 8 interviews shot, man. I was busy. But then I went to the Reef Builder studio, where it was like, I never knew that type of coral existed. And you're like, oh, that coral looks happy and healthy. That coral looks happy and healthy too. Like maybe they culled out everything that wasn't happy, but you're like, you walk around that place and you're like, nothing looks bad in this place.
Yeah, imagine if your full-time job was just having cool aquariums and taking care of them.
That is your full-time job, Terence. Or it was, sorry.
No, not really. I'm talking about my full-time job is having cool aquariums, shooting pictures of them, shooting video, talking about them. Yes, you could have some pretty cool stuff, no doubt. I mean, it's like running your own little mini public aquaria in there. I mean, it's definitely a cool place. I was there in 2020, the last Reef Stock before the pandemic hit, and Jake's definitely have some cool stuff that he's running in there, and I'm sure he's got some additional stuff running since then. And hopefully you didn't get any contact eye or anything while you're there.
No, but
nope.
there was
nobody was blazing.
There was not a single piece of Neptune equipment in the whole building, though, Terence.
Oh, gee, I wonder.
I pointed that out to Tom, and I was like, Tom, you're the sales guy. Come on, close the deal.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all my fault.
Anyway, yes. All right. So that's the Reefing Report Reef Stock update. So, but yes, it was a good show. Some good people around, plenty of frags. Good to see people again.
So there was nothing really completely new, but there was something that was new from Ecotech in the last week, right? That happened, because I know I pinged you and said, hey, what's going on? Anything new from Ecotech or Neptune? And you texted me back and said, yeah. What did you say?
Price increase.
Yeah, exactly. So the prices went up. I can't take credit, obviously, for this graph. It comes from Luxdium out on Instagram. And prices are going up. for certain companies. So it is definitely a thing. I don't exactly understand it in the Ecotech AI world. I know in the Neptune world, it went up at the end of the year, and even before I left, it was a planned kind of thing because, I mean, after all, some of those products were around, 3, 4, 5 years, and they hadn't had a price increase, and then all of the, the chips shortages raised the prices on lots of different chips that were out there and whatnot. And I know that right before Neptune did their price increase, Ecotech had done their price increase back in October, and that shows on this graph.
Right.
And I would have thought that would have been it, that they would have, cooked in as much as they needed to, but to have another price increase in March, less than 6 months away, seems a little rough, don't you think?
So, I mean, as a consumer, sure, you're like $949 for a Radion. Like, what I'm trying to. Do you remember what they came out as when they first came out? Was it like $600 for a Radion?
No. If I
Like
remember correctly,
750?
and Ken's going to come on and probably, he posted this up a while back on one of their social media channels on saltwateraquarium.com, and I believe it was around $900, the original one. I believe it was around $800 or $900 for the original Radion. And on
Really?
top of yes, and on top of that, before the Quiet Drive Vortec, before the Quiet Drive came out, because I actually did the Wayback Machine to look at this.
Yep.
It was $400 for a MP40. So it actually went
Yep, I
down
remember
in
that.
price. So it actually went down in price before it went back up in price. So, in all truthfulness, the price, for instance, on the MP40 isn't that much more than when the Quiet Drive first came out, and it has more capability. So in that respect, I can understand it. Maybe in a marketing perspective, I don't know that it would have been necessarily a great thing to do it twice in 6 months. But also, in the LED space, all of these products are not necessarily going up in price, Mark. I actually went out just to look at some things in other industries, in terms of the grow industry, right? So I went out, let's see here, where is it? Here it is. So the LED grow light, the Viper Spectra LED grow light, is $89 right now for their 2 foot by 2 foot light, okay, out on Amazon, right? Obviously it's not a Radion light. I'm not trying to compare this to the Radion light. What I did do next, though, is I looked at the price tracking. So there's actually sites where you can do the price tracking. And the pricing on this, although it has gone up slightly over the last, few months, right? From its launch, it's gone down, all the way down to $54, and then now it's back up to about $69. So yeah, it has had a little bit of an increase, but overall the trend in these things has gone down for LEDs. Now, is it the exact same light? No, but it does have LEDs, it does have control electronics, it does have a driver, it does have many of the same things in it. And I'm not trying to pass any judgment on Ecotech necessarily, but definitely, some products are going down, some products are not, and people, they have choices.
Interesting. Yeah. So I'm curious if that's partly related to labor and how much more they're having to pay people and passing that on.
It's certainly possible. Labor is definitely an issue right now. I think I did see the copy of one of the emails that they had sent out. I don't believe labor was listed in there. I believe it was product costs and component costs and the like. Obviously, shipping costs have also gone up quite a bit, but that's what you're paying, guys. Now, it's interesting that Luxtium put in here that he put a projected cost of over $1,000. Another 6 months, another 6 months out. I don't know that I would agree with that necessarily. I think that would probably not be prudent, but who knows? I mean, everything is going up, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes.
I was just going to look at their jobs, see if they had some job listings where you could make like $25 an hour packing Radions. Everyone could go jump on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just as like, I got a buddy who works in manufacturing, and people were turning down $21 an hour to pack boxes and shipping boxes.
It's nuts. There's no doubt.
Wasn't good enough.
There's no doubt.
Which is
Somebody
another
mentioned,
discussion.
obviously we have the overall inflation costs, and then there's the gas prices, that are happening, right? That are, the increase in gas, and all of those things are going to, make every product that we have go up again. Let's just hope it doesn't go up, again. But, now that they're all the same company, right? They're all under the same umbrella. Does that mean a Neptune Systems second price increase is going to happen?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. They got to raise it at some time. Now, but they just
did, like in November, December, right? So maybe in May or June.
Three more months, it'll be something different.
I don't know, but maybe it happens with new product release. I mean, the Apex itself is obviously starting to get a little long in the tooth. It was released in 2006, right? So we're 6 years in. So who knows? Maybe it goes up if there is another Apex launch this year. I don't know if there is or there isn't, but if it was me, that's where I would do it, right? If I was going to have a price increase, that's where I would do it.
I mean, you wouldn't wait for the nitrate phosphate Trident and then do it then?
Yeah, I don't know about that product either. So you're venturing into dangerous territory for me, Mark. So.
Oh my God, dangerous territory.
But speaking of Neptune Systems, there is one little piece of news, Mark, that did come out. So one of the things that I had actually done some videos on and whatnot, back when I was at Neptune Systems, was the Trident service program and self-service program, etc. We had a number of videos where we talked about it coming out, and it kept getting delayed. And now you can actually go out and get your Trident service. So if you do have a Trident and it's 18 months or older, it's not a bad idea to get it serviced, and they have 3 different ways to do it. So what do you think about this, Mark? Oh, look, there's me.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Let's set the context right, because I'm a context guy, right? Like, I don't have a lot of time or patience to take things apart, fiddle with things, and try to figure it out. So I would be in the category of advanced replacement. Like, take my money, send me one in the replacement, because I want to swap it out and keep all my data and be really happy that I continue to geek out on things. And then I'll send it back, and whatever you do with it is fine. That being said, I've had to open a couple of these things up because the internal tube got clogged or something. I'm like, look, I can send this back, but I talked to support, and they're like, oh, well, look at this video, and it was one of the the Trident service program videos, and I was like, I could do this. And you take off some screws, and it's a little unnerving in a way because you have to pop off the cover, but it doesn't break. It's no big deal. And then I removed a hose and put a new hose in, and it was no big deal. So if I even was a slight tinkerer and wanted to save some money, I would not be nervous about taking it on as the DIY approach. Personally, for me, I'm just more of a send it back and get it out of my life. I want to keep staring at my tank kind of guy. But it definitely is doable, even for someone who's not a DIY, do-it-yourself kind of guy.
Yeah, so for me, all along, right, my opinion on this is do not do the DIY. Do not do the DIY.
Everyone in the stream's like, what? Okay, tell us, explain.
Because not everybody, well, let's put it this way. Most people are not going to have the skill to do it, right? Most people are not going to have the patience to do it. And you're going to be really upset if something doesn't work after the fact, and you have to end up calling into support and trying to get it. That's the number one reason. The number 2 reason is if you take a look at the advanced replacement cost, it's $200. If you've had this thing for 2 years, okay, you basically, fill out this form, go through this process that Paul outlined here, and for $200, you're going to get another one sent to you right away. You're not going to go down at all. You're going to have a fully reconditioned one with a 180-day warranty. Okay, so you got a 6-month warranty on it, right? That you didn't have if you DIY'd it. There's no warranty if you DIY it. Okay, so you got another 6 months that something happens with it. You've got it covered. You're going to get a full, a 2-month reagent kit, which has a value of about $50. Okay, so immediately hack off. Even if you bought a year, the 6-month kit, hack off whatever it is, $38 or whatever off of that cost, and now you're down to $160, right, to get this exchanged out. And amortize that over the next 2 years, it's nothing. The cost is really nothing, and it just seems to me like I'm going to get one, it's going to work. I'm going to know it's going to work before I take out the one that I have, right? I'm not going to get back mine and then, oops, they made a mistake when they were fixing it. It wasn't quite right. I got to send it back again or wait for them to send one out. I just know I'm going to get one. I'm going to plug it in, and everything's going to copy over. There's a way to copy all the info over, right? So you're good to go. And I think anybody who's listening to this live stream, if you have a Trident and if it's over 18 months old, no matter what Neptune system says, for $200, contact them, get the advanced replacement. I obviously don't work for them anymore, so, but before the price increases, before they figure out that it's costing them too much more money, before inflation kicks in, whatever, just get it done.
So Jeffrey made a good point drawing on that. He said he wonders how many people are going to do the advanced replacement and then just keep theirs and give up the $100, but then have two on hand.
Well, I don't think that's. I don't think that's what they intend after that. That you get to keep your other one for $100. I don't know what they're going to do if you decided to do that, but it's probably not super cool, right? So, it's just one of those things. And you know what? Mike Andrews just came on. Sounds like the Trident is built to fail. No, okay. Your car is not built to fail. Okay, you have mechanical things in here. You have a number of pinch valves in there, which are electromechanical things, kind of like your like flippers on a pinball machine. Kind of the way that they work. And you have a peristaltic pump in there, which also has to have its head replaced. So. No, it's definitely something that you need to do service on, and it's just the way it is. The cuvette gets replaced, it gets stained after a period of time, all of those things. So anyway, that was released this week, and that's your information. That's your opinion from my side. I would, as Larry says, get her done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is that we went from no data, because unless you bought an Altronic or another unit, most of us didn't have any kind of automatic tester, so you might check your alkalinity twice a week. And now we have all this data with our Trident, and now we're like, wait, I've got to be without it for 3 days while I send it in?
Hey,
and your tank will be fine, but it's oh my god,
I ran out of reagent, okay, a week ago, okay, 10 days ago, okay, so, and I'm like, oh heck, what am I going to do? Okay, so I could have gone down to Neptune Aquatics, but I'm like, I'll just order it up from saltwateraquarium.com. So it's not going to be here until Tuesday. And so I am in major withdrawals right now because I don't like testing. I don't want to break out the test kit. And I'm just like...
Your test kit reagents have probably expired.
Oh, they probably have. I'm just I'm looking at the tank and I'm like, yeah, everything seems good. Can't wait to hook it back up and calibrate, see what the value really is. Yeah, I know, man. I know.
I mean, I relate. I am laughing, but I do the same thing. It goes down, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like Dumbo without the magic feather. You're like, this is the end.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been doing good so far. So I'll report back next week what my alkalinity ended up at. I haven't had to do much tweaking. Oh, one of the things I'll let you guys know for sure, and certainly it's only on a system that's got a calcium reactor as big as mine. I can't say for one that would be smaller, but you guys know how I've used a dose for doing, feeding my calcium reactor for the longest time, right? Remember that, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so I have this whole thing that I call BS on people needing a continuous, duty pump to feed it continuously and all that nonsense, right? I took it to the next step by not just using, a dose that, wasn't continuously feeding it. I actually have taken a PMUP and connected it to my calcium reactor to feed it because I had a head go bad on the dose. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just take this PMUP I have here, and I'm going to hook it up, and I'm going to put it on an OSC statement, and I'm going to fine-tune the on-off times for the OSC statement for that. And, come on, I don't remember what it is, 20 seconds, and go off for, 40 or something like that. And it just has been running it like a dream. So all those people who are running a calcium reactor and thinking they need that, they're just so full of it. They just really, it doesn't matter, Again, if you've got a tiny calcium reactor, it might, but in a big calcium reactor, it just doesn't matter. So there you go.
another topic for another day. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
But
All right, what do we got?
we
Get
got-
to.
we skipped over the Patreons. People have supported Reefing Report.
Oh, yes.
We have a private Facebook group for those of you who have supported us. So thank you for that. We're working on benefits for you all that throw us some jingle. We appreciate that. So we definitely want to give a shout out to everyone. We won't call you by name because we understand privacy concerns. You don't want to get in trouble with your wife or husband. There may be some lady reefers on the stream. That's
Well, how about
okay.
this, Mark? If you donate over $35 a month, we won't mention your name.
I mean, it's anyway. Okay.
Anyway,
I'll
but we
leave it at that.
appreciate
So,
all
yes.
of you guys 100%. And I mentioned last week, hey, why don't we have like a private Facebook group? So immediately the following day on Monday, I created the new Facebook group. And we have a number of you guys in there, and it's kind of cool because I'm. Oh, by the way, I'm also working on some hats. Just so you know, Mark doesn't even know that yet. And and
I go on to town and there's all this news.
so all the Patreon guys are going to get to kind of vote on the hat style. Okay, that's going to come up pretty soon. And on top of that, sometimes when we get some stories and stuff in while we're trying to understand and develop them, I might float some stuff by you guys in that private group. So if you guys want to donate, you can do it out on the Reefing Report right at the top there. There is a link that says tip us off, and that's how you can donate to Patreon. So thank you all of you Patreon donors out there. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And look, they found coral on Mars. That was your story, Terence. Why don't you knock that one out since it's right there in front of everyone?
Yeah,
And then we'll
so-
transition.
So who of you out there has had a concretion?
A what?
Exactly. A concretion. So they found a concretion on Mars that supposedly happened from water that was on Mars before and created this thing that looked like a coral to me. So I decided to put it up and just kind of have a little fun with it. But we do get concretions in our tank when we have the calcium, like the overload in calcium thing that happens in the sand. Have you ever seen that happen?
Yes.
That's it? Yes? It's never happened to you? You just see it
Terence,
happen.
come on. You're a sales guy. You asked a yes or no question. I'm going to give you a yes. You have to ask an open-ended question, buddy. Come on.
Anyway, I thought this looked like a coral. I thought it was kind of fun, so I posted it out there. There's not much more on that than that.
I mean, we could really dig into this deep, Terence. Do we think this is an Anacropora? Do we think this is an Anacropora porites? Like, what
Yeah.
could this be? Let's dive into this on the Reefing Report livestream.
Maybe it's a Montipora. It's a Montipora like the one that you have the hybrid on, right?
Yes.
Not a
yes,
Montipora,
which-
a Montipora.
a Montifera, which, again, like most people look at this, they're going to look at it and go, that's really cool. I want that, which I was like, okay, I get that. But like, I got to back up because they talked about it being grafted.
Okay.
And then you read the story and it's talking about it was next to another coral and there's some pigment exchanges. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but grafting is like you take one off of this, like apple trees, you take a branch off and then you splice it and you physically attach it to the other branch. That's what I understood grafting to be. This sounded like more of just an exchange of pigments. I'm not saying it's not cool, but I'm like, I thought physical grafting was different.
So I'm gonna.
This sounds like
I don't
it.
believe it's grafting. I believe it's what happened in my tank. I've explained this to some people. Maybe I've talked to you about it, and it happens to be a very similar coral to the one that it happened to in my tank. Although it did not happen to the Anacropora side, which is what they show here, is the Anacropora picking up the colored proteins from that Acropora that's next to it. What happened in my aquarium is the Acropora, the purple Acropora, picked up the proteins from the slime ball Anacropora and created this really cool, and if you guys go out to, on Reef to Reef, I have my build thread. There's actually a couple of pictures out there that you can see this coral from the side view of my tank. I probably could put it up there. Let's see if I can, I think it's tinyurl.com/Fugazi 425. It's a really cool thing that happened in, yeah, there we go, in my aquarium, where I have a sea swirl, and you might have seen it on the run-up. You can see it in one of the images there. Let's see if I can find this picture. Here we go. So in this picture, you can see it. So in this picture, you can see this Acropora here, where it's got different colored polyps on the Acropora, and you're like, well, how did that possibly happen? That's really bizarre. It's not even like some of the swirling of the flesh that you've seen. But what happened is that my sea swirl was scraping the top of the slime ball Anacropora that was growing, and it was keeping it from growing. But as it was going back and forth, at some point it scraped off maybe a couple of protein cells or what have you from the bright green Anacropora and blew them directly into this purple Acropora. And so one day I was opened the top and I did the top down look, which I don't do very often because my tank is kind of tall, right? And I'm like, what in the world is that? And I'm like, that is just incredible. And so I started taking frags off it to save it in other places, and it still grows just like this. And so it's kind of a one-of-a-kind coral, and I think that's kind of what probably happened on this coral as well, is that happened. Now, there is one picture that they have here where they have joined it together, Mark. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
And it may be the case that that's what happened, but I don't know. But there are some really cool stuff that happens in the wild and happens obviously in our aquariums sometimes, and it's one of the coolest things that's ever happened in my aquarium is to get two corals like that to mix. They weren't even touching. They never touched each other. They never had physical contact, and it was just a really neat thing. So how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, that was my question. Like, what do we think this It's got to be more north of $500 for the first couple frags, at least.
So have you bought one of the Monty, the plating Monties that have the two colors in it, the hybrid ones of that? Have you ever bought one of those?
Terrence, it's amateur hour, dude. We don't put plating Monties in our aquariums. Come on, if you're a big reefer, you don't do that.
I have one. I have a couple of them actually, and they just happen.
We can tear them out when we upgrade your tank. Perfect, done.
There you go.
But yes, continue.
But I wonder when people buy those, right? Because I've had one. It was actually given to me. I didn't purchase it. In all honesty and transparency. And I put it in my tank, and like whatever the color was that was on there just left, and it just became a green Monty, in the tank. So I'm like, it's kind of like, I don't know that I would put out a ton of money on something like this, because then one side or another is just going to go dominant. Oh.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get one and try. That would be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we'll see how much this one goes for. I can tell you this, though. If you do get this coral, and it does continue to have the pink and green, which would be awesome, and I'd love to have a piece of this particular coral grows like a weed. It grows super, super fast. So do know that. It will not be expensive for long, Mark, if that is the case. Because this is not
Even with inflation, runaway inflation and gas prices, it won't be expensive long.
No, because it's not like one of those tenuous or something that grows really slow, or any of those other LPS that grow super slow. This thing grows, and it grows for everybody, and it's completely indiscriminate. You can't hurt the thing. It's really easy to grow. So whatever the cost is, wait 6 months and then see, because if it continues to grow, you'll get it cheap.
Well then.
All right, what's up next, Mark?
So speaking of cheap and borderline, there's a threat. I don't want to say threat, but the suggestion of stealing / ripping something off. There was a video that popped up this week that was alleging that the VCA Aquatics they took his patented idea and made I don't want to say their own, but they took his idea, printed out a turbulent flow nozzle, and he's the one who came up with it.
Yeah, so you guys can go watch this video. You can go click on it off of reefingreport.com. Clevin is the person who has put out this video claiming that they're the originator, of the turbulent flow generator, which looks a lot like the random flow generator from VCA. So I started tracking this down earlier in the week after I saw the video, Mark, and actually used the Wayback Machine, on the internet, which is an awesome thing, right? So I can go, I could actually see, that files have changed in the past and when they have changed, and all kinds of stuff like that through the Wayback generator. And of course, I reached out to Antonio from VCA, who makes the RFG. To get his take on it. And he gave me some feedback, and I told him, look, you need to put something in print, you need to put something in video so that we can link to it, because that's kind of the way we roll, right? I'm not going to, just speak for him, so to speak. But one of the things that comes up with this is a lot of products end up getting created. And I'm not going to be the arbiter on this, and of course I'll ultimately have an opinion that is still it's still in the works as I uncover more and more of this. I do know Antonio. I wouldn't say I would consider him a great friend. It's not like we hang out and go to dinner, but yes, I see him at the events, and he's certainly a viewer of the program. But his take in summary, which I told him to summarize in a way that we could put up here, Mark, is he absolutely downloaded this particular file back then and worked on perfecting it to bring it to the product that it is today, and to the product that they ended up ultimately getting a patent on, which they do have. So VCA does have a patent that was filed for in 2018 and granted last year. Now, obviously, he's, if there are contentions on the patent, he would have to defend against that, down the road. But what it brings to me, Mark, is this whole idea of, if you don't create a product from the beginning, right? If you don't invent it like from ground zero, like the wheel, okay? At what point can you modify stuff and adapt stuff and bring it to market with new innovation? Again, I'm not saying whether or not he did or not, okay? And still have a product around that. I mean, what do you think about that?
So that's a good question, because you're right. Like, at some point, you could just say every car manufacturer is ripping off the guy who made the wheel. It's like, is it a matter of so many degrees of separation or so much improvement? And therefore, and often, as you know, in business, the first people to market are not the ones who have something be super successful and sometimes make all the money with it either. So I don't know. That's a good question. Like, how much separation do you need to then call it your own? Or if you just say, hey, this was based off someone's idea, but now this is ours, would that make someone happy? I don't know. That's a good question. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think that there's an evolution of different things that end up coming out. I think the 3D world is an interesting one. I mean, in addition to this, first of all, the answer, he's actually, Kate Clevin, who is the individual who posted this video, is on the live stream right now. He is commenting, says that, no one reached out to you. Well, the reason they haven't reached out to you is because I've got a video, and I'm using the video as my content to push out there, and there isn't something from the other side, and so that's why I contacted him to just say, hey, what's going on? And he's pretty much said he's going to put something together and throw it out there. But what I will say, and Mark and I both have agreed on this, that we'll have both of you on the program, either together or separate or however it is, and you can certainly, talk about your particular side of this particular issue, and we're welcome to do that. We don't have a dog in this fight one way or the other, right, Mark?
Nope, I don't. I like Antonio. I like the product. Don't use it, so absolutely not invested in any way.
Yeah, and there are a lot of products that I think are like this. In fact, it was an interesting, we at Neptune Systems, for instance, took a lot of flack for utilizing some design ideas out of the out of the Coral Care product, right? And then designed a light that was entirely different all the way around, yet had a number of people who were ripping it apart and saying that we bought parts out of the scrap bin from Philips, and they had all kinds of interesting theories. But at the end of the day, we basically had created a new design with some of the design elements legally, which this is on other live streams. This is nothing unique or anything that hasn't been covered before. So, if you do take a product, like you buy an LED bar from China and you decide to make some adjustments or changes to it, right? And then sell it, does that make it yours? Yeah, it does. And that's cool. And there's not a problem with that, in my opinion,
That's the Neptune Systems AFS, the automatic feeder.
Yeah.
That's not made by Neptune. You can look at it and tell, and yeah.
Yeah, I helped. I helped with that particular product. It was one of the first kind of add-on products that we brought to the Apex ecosphere back then. And yeah, it's about okay, yes, it is somebody else's product, and we added some other stuff to it and made it interconnect and yes, charge more money than the original one that's out there. And anybody can make a judgment on that, but it's not that you know, the person who created the original product is like, oh, wait a second. So, you know, there is you know, the idea of taking something that's already in existence and making it better, and there isn't IP on that other thing, right? There isn't registered IP on that other thing, is kind of how the world works, really. So, and I have the guys on and have that discussion, you know, with each of them, and like I said, we can have it together or separate or whatever they decide to have.
Yeah, I mean, I can I can relate to this in a way. I mean, when I started Mr. Saltwater Tank TV, it was me and pretty much 2 other guys on YouTube doing it. And then one day Bulk Reef started making videos, and I was like, what the hell? I make videos. Why are they making videos? And then from there, they went way beyond what I was willing to do with videos and stuff. And now they've reached the level of success level which they have. And sure, part of me is like, wait, it was my idea. But it's like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They executed.
Right.
They got it. Like, I could have done it, but I didn't. So
There you go.
oh well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the other thing too, though, I'll expand out on this a little bit. If somebody then, and this is the part I don't think is cool, okay? So if Antonio from VCA, right, worked to perfect this product, or let me back up a second. So we created this little salinity thing. I am the one who came up with the salinity adapter that he currently produces and sells for the, you know, for the Neptune salinity probe, right, to make it work better, right? I think he calls it the SPS or something like that. I went to him with that idea and said, here, build this particular thing. And he did, but guess what? He made a lot of revisions to it to make it better and to make it work past the idea that I gave him. Now, the part that I think is not super cool on that product or on, let's say, even the RFG is if you put that kind of work in and now people in the 3D printing world then go and reverse engineer that stuff and print it, and especially print it, and I'm not insinuating that, you know, Clevin here has done this at all. I'm not, Kate Clevin. But if somebody is to do that, is to take something like that and then try to reverse engineer what those changes of those adaptations are and then sell that, to me, that's not super cool.
Agreed. That's, yeah, totally. 100%.
So, I mean, and let's be honest too, this is not somebody getting rich either off of this, okay? This is, you know, this is the other thing too in these businesses, Mark, that you and I know, that businesses in the reef industry, right, except for the biggest of biggest ones like BRS and et cetera, right, a lot of these smaller companies, these are really small family lifestyle businesses. They're not, you know, they're not just rolling in the cash, you know, like, you know, like Daffy Duck's uncle or something, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it's a small market. It's a small world. And I think the smaller it is, you know, more people are going to be likely to get toe stepped on and be louder about it, which I see both sides of this. I understand both sides of the story. You know, and so, yeah, it's a small world, especially in the reefing world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt, 100%. Okay, so on another, I guess it's not related thing, we did talk about the vibrant thing last week. I just want to kind of touch on that as far as if there are any updates to that. To the best of my knowledge, the only update is Jeff from Vibrant did come on to Reef and said that they were doing tests and that they would be getting back to people within a week or so with, you know, the results of that and whatnot. And other than that, there's just a lot of the same stuff being just rehashed over and over and over again in those threads.
Yeah, I think that's until something new comes out, that's what's going to happen. Someone will post up, as always happens on, you know, on any forum. They're like, "Hey, look what just happened with fiber," and most everyone's like, "Oh, dude, that was like 2 weeks ago."
Yeah.
So, but until that happens, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the whole thing is going to land ultimately, but it's definitely a conundrum for the company. They definitely have backed themselves somewhat into a corner, and Randy Holmes Farley also came on the thread also and basically said what we had said, or I had said on the live stream earlier in the week, which is there's not a whole lot of outs. One of the key outs could be that their supplier either switch things up on them after originally doing something one way, or all along was kind of snowing them on that. And I'm not trying to give them a pass. I mean, that part is one way, and the other way is the company themselves was deceitful. So either they were deceived or they were deceitful, and that's probably where this is going to, to fall out, because I think what's in the bottle has more or less been pretty much washed out and concluded.
Yeah, and every industry, I don't want to say bad apples because we're not insinuating that they're necessarily bad, but it's like there's always bad stories. Like someone could easily take that and be like, see, they're all bad people doing bad things. And as we've said before, we need to do a better job of waving our flag and showing success. Part of that is with fish collections. There's plenty of people
here we go.
believe,
Yeah.
Like cyanide is how all those fish are caught. And like net catch caught fish, which is how they do it in Australia. One of the reasons I buy from Australia fish. That's like the general way to do it, a natural way to do it. Great way to catch the fish when done right. It's not stressful on the animal. So
let's back up for the viewers for a second. Let's back up for the viewers.
Sure.
So the way that 99% of fish collection took place 25 years ago was a guy had a little puffer, right, with some cyanide in it, and went to an area where there's a lot of fish, scared the fish went into the rocks, puffed this stuff into the rocks. Everything basically goes, up like this. Collect what you want, put it in your bag, and move on. Meanwhile, lots of stuff in the reef died, and your fish basically had latent issues that would not be, it's like getting like liver cancer or whatever it is, who knows, until you got it to your tank and wondered why your fish just mysteriously died. So that was kind of how everything was done. Now, more and more, people, especially when you look at like Hawaiian caught fish, when you were allowed to catch fish in Hawaii, they put up barrier nets in an area, let's say through between two bommies. And correct me, Mark, right away when I'm wrong, but they set up a couple of barrier nets, right? And then they drive fish more or less into these barrier nets and then collect them off of the barrier net. Did I get it right?
Mostly, yes.
Okay.
10,000 foot, yes.
Yeah, that's all I was looking for. Wasn't trying to get it nitty gritty here, buddy.
But Terrence, if you'd come with me to certain places of the earth, you could have seen it in person. But we'll leave that alone. We'll just
he's trying to get a plug in for one of his trips. Okay, one of these times we'll definitely go. Okay, and I'll see exactly how it's done. But anyway, it was out on Reef Builders that there's another net catch training program. What's the name of the company over in the Philippines that has been doing this? RVS, is that it?
Yeah, RVS Fish World.
Okay. So what's your thoughts?
So they came out and Reef Builders reported that they're doing a net caught training program. Here's an image that to me looks like should be like the first part of a PowerPoint slide on the topic. And then they included this photo, which I was like, great. Like we got some photos of guys standing around with matching t-shirts and they're waving. And then you click on that link and that's from 2017.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so one, and I've got to give some credit here where credit's due, since we talked about that earlier on the stream. Richard Ross was the first guy who kind of pointed this out, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. He's pointed out at other times. Like, where's the video? Like, going back to, like, we should wave our flags, and if you're doing this, partly because you're like, hey, I'm doing a good thing, like, great. Show me the video of you guys down there diving. And like,
so here's the deal, okay? So I think you can buy like a GoPro 3 now from eBay for like $28 or something, okay? And get good enough footage while you're out there hookah diving for fish to make everybody go, cool, So, yeah, my expectation is if you're going to do this stuff and you're going to want to get credit for it, you should have a little bit more footage of this. And not only that, but like, again, back to the putting, a certification stamp or whatever it is, and getting somebody to do that, in the business. And I know it's been gone over and over again, but this is a perfect example of why I just look at this with, how does Rich say it, with like a weird face,
Skeptics.
Of going, are they really doing this, or do they just pump up another thing? And that, and Jake got a call from them and said, hey, we're doing this again. And so, another story gets run. I don't know. But I think we can do better in terms of documenting what's really happening.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I mean, I hope they're really doing it, because that's in my opinion, how it should be done.
Right.
But let's wave this is a great opportunity to wave the flag. And then, like, from a marketing perspective, it's like you literally just like kind of glossed over something. Like, there's a big shot. Like, you get a big shout out for this.
Yeah.
Absolutely, work it, do it. Like, it takes something to really put on an event like that. You should get all the bang out of it that you can.
Yeah, and not only that, they could pass that along through the wholesaler and to the store, even if there wasn't a third party doing it. Just in like give them a graphic that says we do this, and with a QR code, and it goes to this website and shows what they do. And the store would love to stick that QR code on their tank and show what they're doing. Even if, you know what, we should still be skeptical that they're doing it for everything, but I mean, they have every reason to want to do that, in my opinion.
And I used to work in the animal science department, so I got to see, the food industry, and in a way, this has been done very well in the food industry, especially in the meat industry with Whole Foods. They created their own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step program about how the animal was handled and how it was cared for, and they've kind of branded that and kind of pushed it top down onto the consumers. But they have pictures of like their producers, like, hey, this this cow was raised by this guy. And you can find out the farm, and it's like, it's not at some level it's transparent, but you're like, I know this person, I get it, I feel the connection. We could do the same thing with this in the fish world.
And here's my cow named Giuseppe right before he got the spike through his head.
Not through his head. You electrocute him, but then anyway. I had to do that as part of animal science. I won't talk about that. Not everyone wants to hear about how to do that.
Okay, all right. So
they just want their steak to taste good.
So we got one more thing before we shut down, I think, on the stream tonight, which is interesting. For me, it was interesting, which is really cool. For those of you that follow the BRS stuff, oh, look at this. We got a video. I always have I always have to listen to the commercials before I can actually skip the ads. But, BRS 360 is a tank that Ryan had at his home, and he's since left his home and is building another home. And because of that, they brought it to his office and have it set up in the office. And at his home, he had a bunch of LPS colonies in there. He just went hog wild. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have not.
So there had to be 20 grand worth of LPS in that thing, dude. It was just ridiculous, maybe more. But it was like Insta-Tank, right? And so, but it was really cool. Moved it to his office, got it set up. They've got kind of the refugium and everything right there. When you come into the building, and it's cool because they got it up and running. I think they got it stabilized, and now they're going to actually do a SPS focused tank with this. And so Ryan was just down at Worldwide Corals picking out corals, but every picture I saw, Mark, were these giant colonies. So it left me wondering.
Two thoughts on that. One, you and I both know, and anyone on the stream who has experience knows that large colonies, especially SPS, don't ship well. I mean, even if you picked it out of your tank, walked it next door and put it in another tank, they're just not happy. They're grumpy old men that liked what they had. So maybe he's taking them and he's going to frag them down, but I still would have fragged them before I left. I hope from a, down home reef guy and this, I'm going to be like every other reefer, show the time and the effort and the patience to take some. You don't have to take a 1/2-inch frag.
Right.
But take a 2-inch frag that's got 2 branches on it. I'll give you that. Put it in your tank and then let it grow, because two things. One, it's going to show me you've got the chops to do it and the patience. And also, it's going to look more natural. You take a big SPS piece and you stick it in another tank, it's going to look like you just stuck it in there. I mean, look at your tank. If you just took those out and put them in mine, it'd be like, that doesn't look natural.
So my guess is that he absolutely is going to put frags in there, that he's not going to put these big colonies. He was just showing the colonies that they're coming from. Why? Because number one, I don't think Worldwide Corals is going to let go of those colonies. Those are mother colonies in their tanks. And, Vic is not going to let go of those. I don't care how good the, all of the clout that they're going to get from BRS on this is going to be. I think that that's not going to happen. Now, will they get frags the size of the average person who buys from Worldwide Corals? I would hope so. My hope is that they do, okay? And the reason for that is because if they don't, they're going to have a lot of disappointed customers who watch Ryan's video and then go order from Worldwide Corals and, you know, and get a fingernail and
Not
go, what's happening? So, you know, I'm going to be positive and wait to be seen. My hope is that Ryan gets exactly what the average Worldwide customer would get and then grows them out, and we see what the real experience is for somebody growing corals to where they can grow and end up being, you know, looking like that, like full colony type stuff, you know? I mean, I have probably 8 or 10 colonies that are greater than 8 or 10 inches big in the tank, and it's awesome to have, but it doesn't happen overnight. And certainly, you know, when they went into my tank, they didn't go in like a Worldwide Corals frag, okay? They went in, you know, like an inch, inch and a half, you know, maybe some of them 2 inches, 2.5 inches in a green slimer. But that's an experience I'm hoping that he's going to show, and he's going to, you know, show people that that's what it takes. And I appreciate that he's doing the SPS route rather than the mixed reef thing, because every time you ask somebody, well, what kind of tank are you going to have? And they're like, I'm going to have a mixed reef. It's like,
What's wrong with that? Well, okay, all right. So let's have some fun with this. I think it takes more skill as a reefer to have a mixed reef tank
100%
than it does full SPS.
Yeah, well, I'm
So
not
what's wrong
disagreeing
with
with
a
you.
mixed reef tank?
My point is that when I hear a lot of people who are starting out and they're like, what kind of tank are you going to have? Well, I'm going to have a mixed reef tank. It's like, okay, yeah, that's going to be challenging. You know, that's going to be a super challenge to you to, you know, to grow SPS, LPS, and, you know, mushrooms and other things in your tank, you know, all at once. So the idea to run an SPS, you know, mostly SPS tank, I think is a good idea. And I think a lot of people who venture out and try to do this mixed reef thing end up not succeeding in the way that they'd hoped. And maybe that's a video you need to do, Marcus. Say, how do you make a mixed reef tank successful? Go. I'll tee you up, buddy.
Secret sauce, Terrence. Ooh. Sparkle pixie dust from a
Yeah.
unicorn.
So Kate Clevin, who's on the stream, thank you, buddy, for coming in. Says Worldwide Corals is very helpful in the store. Absolutely 100%. I love those guys. Super generous in my experience. Maybe in the store, I don't know that that's been the, you know, the report that I've seen online in terms of when you buy online from them, that they're super generous. You know, super generous to me is a 2-inch plus frag. I don't know that that's necessarily what's happening on a lot of corals, and I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just, I don't think that's what you can expect most of the time when you buy online these days. You agree, Mark?
Mostly. I just bought a fair amount of coral from different places, and I got some that was as described as like 3/4 inch frag, and then some were like fully encrusted, bigger than that, multi-branches, or they threw in like, someone threw me a Wolverine.
But dude,
And I
you're
was like,
not anonymous, okay? Come on. Let's be real
What?
here, dude. Okay, come on.
Okay, all right, I get it, but I ordered it under my name. I'll give you that. I paid regular retail price. I did not get a deal on it, and I did not get it for free.
Well, that may be the case.
And but I never said, I'm going to give you a shout out. There was no promise of anything at all. And I mean, I haven't.
All right, but let's be
From
real,
some of
okay?
them,
Come
they're
on.
fine.
Let's be real, okay? Even if I order something from somebody, okay, we're doing a live stream, okay, even if I pay for it or what have you, they know that there's a possibility that it's going to end up somewhere, okay? So that just tells me that they're smart. That's all.
Right. Okay. So I'll give you that. If they don't make that connection and don't see that opportunity, absolutely. Like, you're missing out on a market opportunity. But if they are smart, they're going to be like, there could be something to this. Let's bump it up. You never know.
Okay. All right. Well,
What are you laughing
Mark,
about? You're like,
Mark, when I give you,
you
the
wanna say
hybrid
something-
frag, I'm going to give you like 3/8 of an inch of my little hybrid Anacropora, buddy. I'm going to do the opposite.
If anyone remembers from the Austin Reef Club from like 09, 08, 09.
Oh, you were the man,
I'm
huh?
not going to name it. No. I was. There was a guy. I'm not going to name any names. He was like famous in the Reef Club. He had a nice SPS tank, and you would go and you would pay money for like a frag, and it was like a micro frag. Like, you were literally like watching like cake out
3
a
polyps.
magnifying glass,
Right.
and like clip, and you're like, what was that? And it's like, oh, there you go. And then he would like give it to you in like this much water, because he's like, I don't want to mess up my chemistry. And he had like a 500-gallon tank, and you're like, what Anyway, so yeah, you're talking about that. I just brought that.
But I
memory
will
to
close
that
with this. For those of you out there who believe that things are different now, that corals are super expensive and all of this, no, they're not. If you want the latest, super hyperactive booger snot, whatever coral, then yes, you're probably going to pay for that. But if you want an ordinary coral that's out there, you're still able to get great prices, and especially when you go to your local fish store. You go down to Neptune Aquatics here in San Jose, and there are just miles and miles and miles of corals in his store that are $10, $15, $20 for really great corals. And I'm not just trying to pump him up, but I think this is the case around the country, that if you want a nice coral, but it's not like the hottest thing around, you're going to be able to get it, and you're going to get it at a reasonable price. And if your tank is ready to take it on, you're going to grow it, and it's going to grow like a weed. So.
I agree. And before you completely wrap up, Terrence, everyone's asking, because you started it, it's the thing now. What's the hat you're wearing?
I don't know. So this is where I had a problem with this particular vendor when they gave me the hat. I actually asked them to give me this hat, because I thought it was a really cool hat. I love the color. And for those of you that are Patreons, this is one of the considerations. I'm thinking about going actually with this color, quite possibly. Maybe not. But when I saw them again, I was like, dude, you need to put on the back of your hat who this is, because nobody's going to remember necessarily the logo when they want to look it up. And he's like, yeah, I just didn't want to do that because, this is super cool. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm wearing the hat, and you just asked, who is it?
Who is it?
And I have no idea. So if you guys out there know, cool.
We're
Very
going to
cool.
get a close-up of the logo so we can, you don't know. That is a cool logo. I'm a hat guy, and I would wear that.
It is definitely a cool hat. Yeah. Like I said, unfortunately for them, I don't remember who it is. They were at a Reefapalooza, and hopefully they, they see the stream, and they come on and comment so I can help them out later on. But that's what it goes.
And if you know, certainly tag them and let us know. We're curious. That's a good question. So I gotta say, I will be out on an airplane next week, actually kind of flying over Terrence, going out to Hawaii. So gonna check some stuff out there. So
what island are you going to?
Going to Maui. Look,
by yourself?
No, that would be called a vacation. I'm doing a trip.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, he didn't know that one. All right, no, going with the family.
I got it.
Now he gets it. So going out there, be curious. I haven't been in the water in Hawaii since 11 years, so I'll be curious to see what it looks like. And certainly, I got my GoPro with me. I'll do some diving and bring back some footage, see how many different types of porites that I can
about
film.
it.
Of course,
That's about it.
That's about it.
There is some
And
Anacropora there.
so,
There is some Anacropora there as well in Hawaii. I don't know about there, but there is definitely near the Big Island. There is some. So.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out. So I'll be Terrence. I'll be out with y'all next week, but I'll be back the week after that.
So for those of you guys that are here, if you want a particular guest host, put it in the comments or send us a tip on reefingreport.com, and I'll try to get that person to be a guest host on the show. So that'll be interesting. Come up with whoever you want to be a guest host, and I'll see if I can get them.
I'll be curious to see what people are going to come up with. We'll leave that one open-ended.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up with that. Thanks, everyone. Remember, you can tip us off if you want to give us some hot news. Of course, support us through Patreon. Terrence will be back next Sunday, same time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. on the East Coast.
What are you talking about? 6 p.m. Central.
What?
It's 5 p.m. Pacific.
5
7
p.m.
Central.
Pacific. It's 5 p.m. Pacific on the left coast, and it's
that's all I know.
8. That's all you know. All right, with that, I'm going to give up handing it off, or wrapping it up, because that was horrible. Take it away, Terrence.
All right, guys. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a great audience. I appreciate you guys. Share the stream, and come back to see me and mystery host, hopefully, next week for the Reefing Report. Check out www.reefingreport.com to get the latest reefing news every day as we put links up. And until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.